Good morning everyone. I've come in to show you Sherry West's latest Digis to download. In the group, these are free at the moment in each of the events. Over the last couple of weeks we've already had 2 Digis and 2 events, and this week there are 2 more being released. So I've come in to show you and to also show you Sherry's beautiful new papers that she's designed to help us as well. So these are the 4 that will be in the group. They will be available free to download, and if you colour one in, pop it in the event, then Sherry will have a prize for you. The first one we did was this one here, this little cutie here, and this is Back to School Poppi. They're all called Poppi, by the way, and absolutely adorable. She's got a little book in her hand, and it was released at the time when the children here in Scotland went back to school. It was really lovely. It was the same week. They went back like 2 or 3 days beforehand, and I know in America they went back round about the same time. England have 2 more weeks on top of, they don't go back to September. They have 2 more weeks than we do up here in Scotland, although they break up a lot later. This week we have little 4 pants Poppi, and she's got a little kitty and her pumpkin and her leaves. This is last week's Full Fab Fairy, and she's really rocking it, isn't she? We absolutely had such a blast making her last week. And the other one is Overall Poppi, Full Overall Poppi. Then the other ones that Sherry has done for autumn that I'd like to show you are these poppies, and they're absolutely cute and adorable. And being on Sherry's design team, when she popped these through to us, I was just over the moon. I think they're absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to show you how to make a card, because somebody in Sherry's group was asking about card making. Most of us know how to make a card, but when you're new to making things, simple things like what card do you use can be, such a headache. It's like sewing a junk journal. When you are sewing on card, there are so many people asking, what needle do you use? Now, if you don't know, you just use normal needle and thread, it can really sort of like confuse you if you can't find a video that shows you what to do. So I'm just going to show you what I've done with this wee dot here. Right, I've already prepped some bits ready so that it's easy to do. Now, I coloured her in, and if you can see, I've popped a wee bit of lace here around her neck for her collar, and popped a couple of little gems on just to make her a little bit stand out, because the thing with card making is people put a lot of embellishment on top of everything that they make, and gems are very, very popular, as are bows. There's a lot of a lot of women use bows. My mum does in particular. This wee saying Butterfly Dreams is from a freebie from G, from Happiness in Crafting. I will link that down below. And this is G's butterflies. She's got a download in Etsy, and there's 144 butterflies, and yes, I did cut them all out by hand, and I thought this one was just perfect to go with my composition today. The card I'm using came from a piece of A3 card that I cut to size. This is actually 7.5 inches by 7.5. I've already distressed around the outside of this, but now I will distress around the others. These papers are all Sherry's that I'm using, so that you can see what different things that we can do with them. Now I'm just going to distress around the end. This is this green ink is NUVO, and it's their dried oregano, and it's a hybrid. A hybrid ink means that you can use it with anything. You can use it with distress inks, distress oxides, you can use it with watercolours. It really doesn't matter, because normally you would have to work out what product you're going to use first and then decide on what ink you're going to use. So that's why I like the NUVO hybrids, because you don't have to think. and they have a lovely colour to them as well. The coloured pencils that I use are NUVO's again, and they are the watercolour pencils. They have 5 sets at the moment, and I will show you those shortly. Let's just distress our paper up. I've literally just printed on normal printable paper, you know, normal printer paper that you would get in your printer, nothing fancy, and that will go on top of there. Now, we talk about matte and layering a lot when you're making cards. I'll just bring it back in again. Matte and layering means that you get layers. The gap that you usually leave here is approximately 1/2 inch or 1 centimetre. You can make it smaller, you can make it bigger, depending on the composition that you are doing. I tend to eyeball it. I don't tend to actually measure very much. I think that's just what we do when you've been making cards for so long. You just go for it, don't you? Now, to actually give this a bit of height, I'm using foam pads. You can get foam pads all over the place. The best place to get them is somewhere like Poundland, because they are, you know, so cheap in there. You know, for £1 you get a roll of tape, and you also get some squares as well. If you can't get hold of them, the other thing to do is you take a piece of card and you cut this into a square, cut them into squares, and you glue them on. It's as simple as that. This is what you would do if you want to make, and you would just make some like this, make them up ready before you start your card making, and then you glue them on instead. Really quick, really easy, costs you nothing, and it comes from a piece of packaging. Let's just pull these off of here. My pokey tool has decided to roll down the back of the where the keyboard sits on my PC, so I need to pull out my files from underneath there and discover it again. Because that is really a great way of taking your little bits off the back of your foam pads. Now, depending on the backing card that you use with your paper, it would change the whole look of what you're actually making. If I'd have gone from a lighter green, it would have looked totally different from a darker green or a mirror card. Mirror card is the reflective type of card that you can get. And you can get glitter card, which of course is covered in glitter. The company Hunky Dory have done a very lot in the way of making really lovely manufactured cards. They looked into things like when you had glitter card, the glitter shed all over your hands, and then they also looked at card when you go to bend it, even if you scored it beforehand, the card was cracking if it had a cover on it, like mirror card. And they came out with adorable scoreable, and now many other companies make card the same that they do, you know. Obviously they've got the copyright on it, but you know, other companies follow suit, don't they? So card nowadays is less likely to crack than it used to, because everybody's got on the ball with that. One way of stopping your card from cracking when you go to fold it is to score it. Use a scoreboard. If you haven't got a scoreboard, you can use a ruler and something to score it down with. So, you know, for example, I've got a pair of tweezers here. I could use the end of the tweezers and the ruler, and I would just run it down, which will give me my score line, and then from there I can bend it, and it's less likely to crack and not look so nice on the card. And this is our wee Poppi. Now, with the foam pads, they come in many sizes and depths. This one's quite a deep depth one. I have some that are about half the size. It just depends on how much depth you actually want and how thick you want your cards to be. Don't be afraid to cut them up, because obviously if you've got a very tiny piece like a leg, you want to be able to get in there. And now I've lost the other end of that. I've lost that a piece. That was really good, wasn't it? It's stuck to my scissors as it happens. You don't need many of these. I think the biggest thing is when you first start out, you tend to stick them all over onto everything, assuming that you need them, but you don't. Just a little bit of height and something just to hold them in place, because they have an incredible grab on them. If you have some that you think are getting a bit old and they're losing their stick, you can pop a little bit of glue on the back to hold them in place. I've got this on huge great big foam wheels as well. The craft companies, the craft channel decided to bring them out about 4 years ago, so everybody went absolutely crazy, because you know they lasted for ages, except for when Dawn Wheeler was using them, because she tended to go through them like they were water when she was doing her demonstrations. Let's just pop them on the back. When you're making your card, the best thing to do is get your image first. If you decide on what image you are using, obviously we're talking about Sherry's, so you would use her stamps or her Digi downloads. Once you've actually got the image, it's easy to decide how to put it together. Decide on the colours that you're going to put for your background, and what elements you'd like to put with it. It's a lot easier doing it that way round than trying to do papers first and then find an image to match in with your papers. The best card to use when you're starting out is the 120 GSM card that is using, in schools and your children's crafting. Go down to your local shop that does kiddies stuff like Home Bargains, for example, or B&M, and just get a pack of children's card at first. When you've got your children's card, you can then go on from there, and if you decide later on you want to do more and you want to get better quality card, then fine, but don't go buying a lot at first. At first you're better off with just having a ruler and a pencil and a pair of scissors. After that, you might want to try and go into decoupage, or you may want to cut out your figures more delicately, so you would use a craft knife, or they call them an X-Acto knife in America. All of this is just so easy to do if you keep it simple. Now our little girl is finished. As you can see, the colours match so beautifully. And she looks absolutely adorable, doesn't she? That's a little girl. Now I'm going to show you the pencils. Now I use these from NUVO and they're absolutely gorgeous. As I say, there's 5 different colours at the moment, 5 different makes, all the different colours. This was the first one that came out, and it's amazing for doing hair and skin tones. I've got all of them, but I don't want to pull them all out. It seems a bit silly. Now, the other thing I'm going to show you now are Sherry's lovely papers. Now, these are free to download in the group. I think it's best if I go that way. So if I just give you a quick flip through of all the beautiful papers, it's all got lovely, isn't it? It's like marbling. We've asked Sherry to do some autumn papers, so hopefully she will come along and do some beautiful autumn papers for us as well. I think she's done incredibly well, and they are absolutely beautiful. This, of course, is the one that I've used on the back of Poppi, and this is the one that I used behind it. Now, I'm now going to show you my journal that I'm making to put all my designs in that I'm making for Sherry, and just some of the bits of work that I've done. This wee image came out last year, and it's our little Christmas angel, and she's absolutely gorgeous. Let's through here, decide where I put everything. This is the one I did last week, Back to School Poppy. Back to School Poppy, I've stenciled the back with Pentart paste. I actually mixed two colours together to get this goldy colour. It's like she stood up her back against a brick wall at school, you know. Not 100% sure she wants to go back to school today. This is the first of the ones that I've done this week. Now this one is Pumpkin Patch. I put falling leaves on it. And here she is with her kitty, and this is the one that obviously I used on the card. She's blonde in this one, and she's nearer a redhead in the other one. This is one of Sherry's images that I cut out that she sent me. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's perfect in a journal. And I've even managed to keep the wee tail on it. This is the other one for this week, which is absolutely gorgeous. I've called this one Just Being a Girl. I think they do look like they're just being a girl. Now on this, I've used NUVO Pearl Drops to just give a bit of glitz and some pretty cotton lace. Cotton lace is really easy to find on places like Amazon. Really, really easy. And then this is the other one for this week. And I call this one Windy Days because she's kicking up those leaves, and how do we not love that crunch of autumn leaves when they're all dry and lovely and you can just scrunch through them all. And so this is my journal, and this is our last from last week. Here she is, ready to go out. This bit at the bottom, if you're in England, you will understand what Tenor Lady are. When I was making this, it reminded me of a lass who, bless her heart, was down at a place we used to visit quite regularly, and I don't know why the carers never pulled her top over her bottom, because you could always see the pad underneath. But it just reminded me that when you get to that certain time of age, if you want to go out disco dancing and you're having a wee drink, you will probably want to have your Tenor Lady. Anyway, that's the journal that I've started for our Sherry. And that's all the papers. I hope you've enjoyed that wee craft along. I would love to see the cards that you made. So this one I've kept really, really simple. What a lot of people tend to do as well is they will put gems down here. You know, you tend to stick in threes and odd numbers because it looks better. It's just the way artistically it looks. You know, maybe you'd put 3 down here, or you put 3 here, and you would mirror it on the other side. Or if it was my mum, she'd put a big bow on the corner here. That's what people like to do. So pop along to Sherry's group. I'll put all the links down below, and we so want to see your crafting and see how you get on, and I hope that we see a lot more cards in group. Thank you for watching. Bye.